Okay, let's see. Do we go live? Nope. I don't see the correct video. I don't see the correct video here. Someone can tell me if we're live. Are we live, folks? Do you see me? Welcome. Hold on, let me just set up my device here. Welcome. Okay, there we are. We are live. Hello, Chewy. Chewy. AMG. Where's he at? We are in Los Angeles, California somewhere. In the big area of Southern California. Hello, Goth Elf, Chewy, James Mason, Entire Meyer. Hello, Entire Meyer. Welcome, folks. Make sure you speak up. Jellyfish. Grayson Petty. Yes, I can see you, but I'm hearing echo. Now, why are you hearing an echo? Let me just check here. I only have one mic. Only one mic here. There it is.
There's a secondary mic. Okay, got it. Hiding from me there. Okay, got it. So just one mic. Okay, so that fixes that. Well, hello, folks. So our topic tonight will be answering some questions that get repeatedly asked because they're kind of difficult to understand, and there's a constant challenge to me, like, hey, you recommended this. Why do you recommend this? Because it's spying on you and so on. Just understand, and we're going to go through this in detail, that anything I recommend to you is based on, obviously research and study and an analysis of threats that I recognize to be a threat to the average person. Now, some people may have different threats, so you may need to do something different. Like, many of my tips here don't really apply to Edward Snowden. He's in a different category. Or if Julian Assange were free, he wouldn't be doing this. Those kinds of people have a different kind of threat because they're like, the governments are after them. But for the average person that I'm talking to, you're faced with a threat that is not at the level of Edward Snowden and Julian Assange. For those kinds of people, the actual answer for you is don't have a zucking phone. I think that's pretty clear. If I were those guys, I would never carry a phone. Never. And, the best thing I would do would be voice over IP encrypted in some way, and that's even hard to do. So my answer to that is, in that category, never. And if you're in the category of like a Snowden or a Julian Assange, then the threat is actually down to the modem level, the baseband modem on the phone. I don't have a phone with me at the moment. So when I talk about, who's spying on your phone and stuff like that, that typically means a threat at the government level. Okay, hold on. I'm getting an error from YouTube, but never mind. We'll just ignore the error. Okay, there's an error in the YouTube thing. Okay, so that is not the target market for what I'm dealing with here. I'm dealing with the issue of privacy, and privacy is about the average person. You guys, the ones who are on my channel, the average person who reacts to my videos, and you're not the Snowdens. You're not the journalist that's trying to hide their sources. You're not some dissident hiding from a government. Again, those people can use these tips, but I would go to a much different level. So I just want to make sure that we understand that. So that's just to frame the discussion. Hello, Mitchell Valentino. Hello, Spectimore Agendo, Adam VV. Why do I always have to restart the router frequently to achieve gigabit speeds? It's not the router. It's just the internet is all shutting down. The camera is focusing on the mic. Well, we'll move the mic to me then. Yeah, that's kind of weird. Okay. I have a Wi-Fi 6 router and gigabit service. I have a Wi-Fi 6 router and gigabit service. I thought you were talking about my router. Se bajo el volumen. Okay. Volume. Okay, well, I'm too close to the mic. Okay. Too close to the mic. Dark Sins Navarro. Tommy Islands. Grayson. Okay. Josmo. Turn up the volume or turn it down? I'm confused. Okay. I thought he meant my volume was too soft. Anyway, depends on how close I am to the mic. So anyway, there are multiple topics I want to talk about tonight. So we're gonna hit 3 general categories, and these are the topics that we're gonna talk about in different sections. One is my past video, which is on GPG, how you can encrypt anything and leave your messages out in the open. You can encrypt it and put it in any place you want, in an email, on social media, anywhere that it accepts a large message. Obviously not as a tweet, because tweets are too short. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the issue of a MAC address versus an IP address. People are so confused by this. So confused, because I told you to worry about a MAC address, and then people are like drawing these comparisons, say, how do I protect myself against a MAC address, and so on and so forth, and a lot of confusion about that. So we're going to talk about that. And next we're going to talk about the issue that I keep bringing up, and it's just not sinking in for some of you, and I want to repeat it again, and that is there are 2 approaches to privacy. 2 approaches to privacy. Maybe I need a video to refocus on this. The 2 approaches to privacy are, one is to block the information from flowing to whoever, block the data, and the other one is to allow the data to flow but use disinformation. So one is to block the data, and one is disinformation. They're both effective. They're both effective, and they have kind of different strategies, and obviously the idea of disinformation is it's a little bit more practical, because it allows you to use common apps and the internet, versus if you're going to stop the data flow, then it's more restrictive. So we're going to talk about that, and they're both good approaches. So trust me on this. Either one you choose, they're both good. And in some cases, you can't do one or the other. You have to have a mix of both. So that's what the 3 topics that we're going to focus on tonight. And then after that, we can focus on the individual issues that any one of you want to talk about. Okay, so let's see. What did I miss here? PGP and GPG are the same thing now. Okay, much better. Okay, sound is much better. I also heard that contract tracing is not safe. Pass a law. The government was trying to ban end-to-end encryption. Yeah, they call it what's the name of the program to trick you into banning encryption? They're saying, we got to ban pedophiles. So, it's like anything else. Well, we're, we want to save lives. So we want to spy on everyone's, locations, because we want to save lives. So this is going to be the argument you're going to be hearing now, that it's valid to be tracking you because you're going to be saving lives. I mean, just some false narratives, guys. It's just crazy. False narratives. It's distressing. Anyway, topic number 1 is encryption with GPG, which is, as I mentioned in the video, the new version of PGP. So, excuse me. PGP is the proprietary version, previously last owned by Symantec, from what I know. PGP is the proprietary version. GPG, which is GNU Privacy Guard, which has the same initials kind of in reverse as Pretty Good Privacy, which is PGP. It's the same thing. They're interoperable. They use the same technique. So you can actually use one with the other. In some apps call it PGP, some apps call it GPG. So I'd rather use the GPG one because it's the open source one. So I'm going to refer to the preferred one, which is GPG, GNU Privacy Guard. So if you say PGP and somebody says GPG, who cares? Same thing. Okay? Hello, Doomed. Cosmic Rose, Double J, Message Best, Pyramid 7, Action Jackson, Bogus Johnson. Who else did I miss here? Grayson I already got. Okay, now, why is it important to do this PGP, GPG thing? So I encourage you to exchange public keys with anyone who watches that video. You should share that video with somebody who you want to talk to frequently. Anyone that you send email to on a regular basis, anyone you work with, let them watch that video because it's very, very simple. Okay, very, very simple. If you're using many email clients have built-in support for PGP and GPG. And even if you don't, you can use the app that I showed you there, which is called Cleopatra for Windows, and KGPG for Linux. And there's some other version that you can use for a Mac. So they're all available on any platform. And there's also one for Android. So all of this can be used and it actually automatically many of these will automatically make a key for you. So if you integrate it with your email, it spots the new email and then it creates a key, and then you can share the public part of the key. And when you share the public part of the key, anyone can send you a message that's encrypted. And only you can decrypt it because only you have the private key. So public key allows somebody else to encrypt, and that's all they need to see. A public key is not secret. You can post it and you can attach it to an email or put a link in your email saying my public key is here, and they can download it, or you can attach it to every email. You can do whatever you want. And then you don't have to worry about anybody spying on your email if you're doing PGP. Yes, they can get the metadata. Yes, they know who you're talking to, but don't give them the advantage of being actually reading the contents. So yes, the way to do this is for a big bunch of people who talk to each other to have what is called a public key exchange party. So, anybody in a group online, let's say you're meeting up on Braxme, yet any one of you says, hey, let's exchange PGP keys or GPG keys, public keys. And you do that, and if you build up your list, and you don't even know this, what happens is as you talk to people, it's automatic. It's automatic, especially if you post the public key onto what is called a key server. So for example, GNU hosts one of these key servers. So when your email detects that, you have a new key, it actually gives you the option to transfer your key over to the GNU key server, in which case many of these email products will actually read from the key server to see if that email is found there. If so, they'll encrypt it automatically. So it becomes effortless. All of you, that's probably what you need to do, all of you. Just post all of your email accounts onto the key server with the public key. That's it. That's it. And when somebody emails you and you have GPG installed on your email, it just automatically finds that person and encrypts it. And then we're safer from this spying world here. So you got to be using that. And like I said, you can practice on BraxMe, exchange keys with each other to test and see if it works, if you can figure it out. Because a lot of you are afraid to figure it out. But I mean, obviously the video is very popular. People are interested in watching it, but they're afraid to try it. So I'm giving you a way to try it. Go to Brax, exchange keys with each other. So let's test this. See if you can really, encrypt something. People are posting messages in the open on a BraxMe chat, and only the person that the message was intended for will be able to decrypt it. Where do you put the public key? Anywhere. Normally you put it on a website and you say, here's my public key. Or like I said, you have the option of posting it to a key server. So there's several key servers, automatically managed by Cleopatra and KGPG and those apps. So they take care of it for you. They just say send to key server. They do it. Okay. Are the links of each one? Are the links for each of these in Brax in a special room? Maybe I've not sent an email since you did the email hackathon. I'm not saying you should do email. I'm just saying that you can send an encrypted message anywhere. It doesn't matter where it is. It can be an email. It can be in a DM on Twitter. It can be in anything. So you can encrypt it. If you watch that video, you can encrypt anything. And you can post it on the open. Now, you probably can't post it on a YouTube video because it's too long. But anywhere that it takes a long message, you should be able to do it. Like on Brax, you can post as long of a message as you want. So there it works. Okay? So, okay. What did I miss here? Okay, so hopefully you understand that. And I really encourage you to get into practicing first, so you get comfortable with the idea that all you have to do is exchange a public key, and then you can probably teach somebody else to use the public key to encrypt something. And again, it's fairly automated if you use it in email. For non-email, there's that app, and you just basically type in a text area, or you cut and paste your message, and you hit an encrypt button, and there it gives you an alternate form of an encrypted message, and you can cut and paste that elsewhere. Okay, so anyway, go watch that video again. If some of you need to watch it probably over and over, so you kind of get it. But the best way is to practice. So I don't have time anymore to practice with everyone, but so people are practicing with me, but you should practice with each other. So the best way to do it is start out by saying, here's my public key. Send me an encrypted message. Here's my public key. Okay? That's how you start out. So how do you make a public key again? When you run these apps like Cleopatra and Enigmail, and KGPG, all the ones I mentioned in the video, there's an option there to create a brand new key, and you can assign the key to an email, which is a typical way of doing it because it's unique. It doesn't have to be email, but it's the best way because it automates your email. Hello, Rad Graphics. Greetings from Argentina. What's a time zone? What's your time zone in Argentina? Are you like -6 or -4, -5 GMT? What's your time zone? So it's very, very late for you. So you tell me what the time zone is in Argentina. Octacubal. What do you think is the best message app for security anonymity? In the video, you mentioned that it should be linked. It should not be linked to your phone number. I only know Threema has this implemented so far. Braxme is not tied to any phone number, so Braxme is pretty safe. I'm going to say that in general, Signal is fine for people you know, that people already know your phone number. I'm okay with that. So, for example, if you want to use Signal with your family and people you already normally talk to, Signal is fine. That's good enough. I don't feel comfortable sending a phone number to somebody I don't know on Signal. So that's not a good thing for me. So I don't like that, but it doesn't block the value of Signal for people that already know you. But that's not our topic. Hello, Doomed is from the Netherlands, and you're awake as well. Galvano is awake. My goodness, you guys are like, what? 3 a.m., 4 a.m.? So Grayson is GMT -3. Argentina is GMT -3. Wow. It's even further ahead. Okay, so wow, that's you guys don't sleep, I guess. You're on the night shift. And there's Origin Carlson's awake too. You can just use a dummy number if you don't want to put your personal number. No, because it'll have to be a real phone. So you're gonna have to get if you're gonna use Signal, you're gonna have to use a burner, because it actually responds to the actual phone number, and you can actually use it as your SMS app, which I do. I use Signal as my SMS app since the people calling me already know my phone number. So it's 5:22 a.m. there. Yeah, and same with the Origin is also in the same time zone there. Okay, Mitchell Valentino, it can be awkward at first. Does the Moto G7 have encrypted DNS? You don't want that, Orjan. You do not want encrypted DNS. No. Yes, it does. I turn it off. Do not want that. No, do not ever use encrypted DNS. That's BS. Just use a VPN. You do not want. I have a video on that. Do not use an encrypted DNS. If you use an encrypted DNS, you're identifying yourself directly to your DNS. You're the only one with that IP address. It will actually lock in your real IP address, not the VPN. Not too smart. Not too smart. You want the VPN to show the IP address of the the DNS, to see the IP address of the VPN, which is shared. Many people use it. You don't want it to show your IP address, and it may be encrypted. Who the fuck cares if it's encrypted if Google or Cloudflare is seeing all of your DNS traffic? And it's you. They know it's you. So no sucking way. Don't do any encrypted DNS. It's BS. Bullshit. Sorry. You can't. What is a good method to encrypt short messages? I can't. Give them a link to a real message with a PGP message. A link to the actual message there. Okay, so do not. I just said, Origin, I just said to you, when you encrypt your DNS, you bypass the VPN or Tor. You bypass it. You bypass your protection. It creates a tunnel for the DNS from the phone directly to Cloudflare or Google, whoever your DNS provider is, and they have your sucking IP address. Suck, no. If you leave it alone to its offsetting and you're using a VPN, they're going to see the IP address of the VPN. Why would you want to tunnel a DNS? It's a stupid thing made by Google because they want to spy on your sucking DNS traffic. So they're saying, oh, this is good. Let's encrypt DNS. Who the fuck? Who the fuck cares if you encrypt DNS if you're sending it to the guy who's going to spy on you? It's like saying, let's have a encrypted conversation to the NSA. Well, you're talking to the NSA. What's the point of the encryption? Okay? Don't do that. It's a waste of time. Never heard of that VPN. I am Bytes VPN, Chewy. It is my VPN. What do you mean you've never heard of it? It's in my Zakim broadcast. It's on all the descriptions. That is my VPN. So if you trust me, if you're watching me, hopefully you trust me. And then I have my own VPN. I don't trust Proton VPN. Bullshit. Another BS. Proton VPN is open source. That is the biggest BS I've ever heard. Chewy, that is the biggest BS I've ever heard. I'm going to tell you a real fact here, Chewy. All VPNs are open source. All VPNs are based on OpenVPN, open source. We all use the same one. Every one. Now, some companies are beginning to use WireGuard, which is another open source. All VPNs are exactly the same as far as the software and the hardware. The only difference is implementation. If they turn off the logs, and if they squeeze 1 million of you on one server, or like me, I put in so few of you on one server. That's the only difference. Okay, that's the only difference. So all VPNs are very close to being the same because we all use the same software. So thank you, Midnight Owl. Thank you. MCTS Windows 7 Gmail. That's a long name. Hi. Okay, so hopefully you've learned a few things there, Chewy, because people just you're falling for all the marketing you hear. Oh, NordVPN says it's good. It's not good to have servers in the U.S. So all your servers should be in Lithuania, where NordVPN is. And you're like saying that's the best because that's what they said, and you believe that. Well, in the U.S., the servers are protected by law. You can't just attack a server here without a warrant. So a server here is safe because you need a warrant for somebody to hit it. If you're in Lithuania or whatever your service is, they're just going to go take your server and take the logs as they did in Russia. And nobody knows anything, and there's no permissions, and it's just absolute authority. So that is BS. Another piece of BS. Another BS. It doesn't matter a VPN versus other protocols. That's not important. Protects you anyway. The only other protocol that's kind of new is WireGuard. You don't use other protocols like PPTP and all that. That's IPsec. That's from Windows. You don't use those. Those are not open source. The only open source one that's widely used is OpenVPN, and the other one, the new one, is WireGuard. Okay? So hopefully you're learning a little bit here. Okay? So I just don't want to hear false stuff being posted here. I know it's not our topic, but it's false. So I want to make sure that nobody just puts stuff in here that is disinformation. I want to make sure your information is accurate. You don't have to buy my VPN, but some of these companies are truly like scammers. NordVPN is one of them. One of the biggest scammers. So if you want to get scammed, then use NordVPN. And I don't care what you use. Don't care. They're gonna say, oh, we're gonna give you half price this week. And then what they really mean is they're gonna put twice as many users on those servers. That's what that means. Okay, what is Jay's comment? Your VPN usually is on this broadcast above your left shoulder. That's because my Linux computer, I spilled coffee on my Linux computer, so I'm broadcasting and using a Windows computer right now. So it's not set up. So kind of a rush setup. I don't have the same labels and camera and so on. So yeah, it's a little different setup right now. That's why the focusing, and I'm getting some errors in here that I gotta figure out next time. But it just happened a couple days ago, and I haven't had time to set up. One guy said that my DNS will identify me and my network traffic to the ISP I'm connected to. Yes, that is why you use a VPN. Who are these people that you talk to, Origin? You're like full of little snippets that, you hear something and you hear a snippet and it's always out of context. Maybe to prevent cache poisoning. What context are we talking about? If it had an incident. Why do you use Windows? Because my Linux computer, I just said I spilled coffee on my Linux laptop. And I need a fast computer for doing a broadcast. So my other fast computer is Windows. Okay? They have everything already. A coffee incident. Okay. So let's talk about, since we're on talking about DNS and all this, let's talk about the issue of MAC address versus IP address. I told you to worry about both, so everyone's confused and you're saying, oh my gosh, how do I block a MAC address? How do I block my IP address? And like everybody's in panic and they don't really understand what's going on. And it's like, do I have to spoof my MAC address? What do I have to do with my MAC address? Because again, this is a misunderstanding of the different threats. And I admit it's very confusing. So it's very, very confusing. Okay. A MAC address, excuse me, a MAC address does not go through the internet normally. So let's say you go visit a website. The website knows your IP address, knows your device, and can browse or fingerprint you. Okay? Again, let me repeat that. So you go to a website, the website can find your IP address, know your device, and then do browser fingerprint. Okay, that's something that any website can do to you. They can also get your location. Okay? Wi-Fi triangulation. In none of those cases can they get your MAC address. Okay? So websites cannot get your MAC address. It's not possible. The reason is it's not part of the IP stack, the Internet Protocol stack. So an IP protocol, IP packet is like split up into sections. The IP address, the source IP, target IP, and then the data stream and so on. So and there are layers of stuff on there, like what protocol, what port. It's all on that IP packet, and you're sending packets in chunks, like every 512 bytes you send a packet, for example. Okay, so that's what goes through the internet. Now, so the way it goes on the internet, you go from your home computer, your device, it goes to the router, then router goes to the next router, now router goes to the next router, it goes to the next router, and then finally to the destination website. In all of these cases, it's only transferring the IP packet. IP packets have no MAC address. So it is impossible for a MAC address to be revealed all along the internet in a normal fashion. It does not happen. So that is not the threat that you worry about normally for visiting websites and such. Okay, that is not a normal threat. It's only become a threat because of the way it's being used now. Okay, so the MAC address, and again, let me repeat what a MAC address is. A MAC address is your serial number to your network adapter. So if you have a Wi-Fi network adapter, that has a MAC address. If you have a wired adapter as well. That's your second network device. That also has a MAC address. If you have a Bluetooth device, that also has a MAC address. All network devices have a unique serial number called a MAC address. So your device, a phone, has at least two, one for Bluetooth, one for Wi-Fi, and your computer typically has a wired MAC address. If you put two network cards in there, you're going to have two MAC addresses. If it has a Wi-Fi, then it also has that additional MAC address. Okay? So just so you imagine the context here. Now, what are MAC addresses used for? MAC addresses are used to communicate inside a LAN. So when you're inside a local area network, you do not actually talk by IP address. Inside your LAN, let's say your home network, so you got your modem from the ISP, then you put a router, and then all of you feed from that in what is called a NAT, Network Address Translation Area. And that NAT area is kind of a free zone where everything is done by broadcast. In other words, you don't actually do any routing. So if somebody wants to send some piece of data to one of the devices in the network, you're going to say, who is this MAC address? And then that guy responds, it's me. Who is MAC address 123? Who's MAC address 123? The other computer responds, I'm MAC address 123. That's the way it's done inside your home network or your office or whatever. That is called a NAT, N-A-T, Network Address Translation Network. So that's how identities of devices are done, not by IP address. Even though you have an IP address in a local area network, the actual routing is done by MAC address. Okay, so normally it's a pretty benign piece of data. Like who the zuck cares what your MAC address is? I mean, I can't find your location from a MAC address. So a MAC address cannot find your location. I want to make that clear. Okay, if I know your MAC address, I don't know anything about how to find you. Okay, what a MAC address does, however, is see if you're here. So and let's be specific here. A wired MAC address is of no importance. We don't really care about let's not talk about IPv6. Okay, we forget is here. Let's not talk about IPv6. Okay, when we're talking about your MAC address being something to be afraid of, we do not care about the MAC address on a wired network. Don't care. You never have to be concerned about a MAC address on a wired network. Do not even worry about that. Okay? So do you need to spoof like a desktop computer's MAC address? Hell no. It's of no concern, no purpose. Okay? So MAC addresses in general didn't used to be an issue. In fact, it was, it's not something you get concerned about until recently. So MAC address is not something you get concerned about. An IP address is very concerning. An IP address points to your modem in your house, and only you have that modem. So an IP address will say, hey, this guy was on this website, like, porn.com. And they know that because it's tied to that modem, which has an IP address that typically does not change. My IP address hasn't changed in 18 years. And it may be longer. It's just that, in the time I've set up this ISP, that has not changed. So I've been on the same ISP for 18 years, in which case I have the same IP address. Okay? So, doesn't MAC address media doesn't equal media? Yeah, that's a MAC address, media access control. It is a unique identifier, hardware vendor. It is critical. No, It is not critical until I tell you it's critical. What if you got a new modem? It doesn't mean anything. They'll give you the same IP address. Okay, now we're going to tell you now why MAC addresses are dangerous. But again, write this down. A MAC address is not important on the internet. Not important on the internet. It is not an internet identifier. It's not part of the internet protocol. MAC addresses is not a part of the internet protocol. MAC addresses for wired devices, wired network adapters do not zucking matter. They do not matter. Okay? You do not need to be concerned about, unless you're a hacker inside the network. It's just used for identifiers inside the network. It's of no concern to you. Now, why do we need to be concerned about a MAC? Again, you should be concerned about an IP address. I think that's settled now, right? That's why you use a VPN. When you use a VPN, you connect to the VPN so that people see a different IP address, not the one in your modem. They see the IP address of the VPN, where it's shared by many people. First of all, it can't figure out your location because it's elsewhere. And second, other people use it, so it provides disinformation. And since many people use the same IP address, then you can't be targeted to be identified by saying, hey, well, that's you, because they don't even know where it is. The VPN is wherever I put the server. So for example, if you use one of my VPNs, it's in Tampa, Florida. So whatever you are, you come out from Tampa, Florida. So that's part of the disinformation. Okay, so I think that IP addresses, most of you know that's pretty dangerous, so that you already know to get a VPN. So we're not going to talk about that. We're now going to focus on MAC address. Okay, why are MAC addresses dangerous? Well, there are really two sides to this. Two sides, and one has to do with Wi-Fi scanning, and then the other one is Wi-Fi probes. So I don't want to get confusing here. Wi-Fi scanning, Wi-Fi probes, two completely different things. Okay? Two completely different things. I'm going to put a Wi-Fi scanning aside. We're going to talk only about Wi-Fi probes. Now, what is a Wi-Fi probe? Basically, your device emits a probe every second on Android, and it emits one every second or less, sometimes less, on iOS. The probe sends out your MAC address announcing that you're looking for a network. So it's going to say, hey, I'm looking for a network. Any Wi-Fi's around, especially my preferred Wi-Fi, which is home Wi-Fi. I'm looking for that. That's the probe. It keeps sending that out every second. Okay? It sends it out even with airplane mode on. Okay? I just want to make sure it's clear. You can't actually turn off Wi-Fi mode. Wi-Fi probes. You can't turn it off. There was a university that did an experiment of many, many different phones, put them in a room, put an RF detector. I didn't conduct this test myself, but happily somebody else already did it, so I don't have to do it. So they already did the test, and I can easily do it. I'm a ham. I got the radio frequency, and I can track the traffic through a SDR, RTL SDR. And then I can see what actual data is being emitted. Or I can go to Wireshark and do the same thing. So what's happening is that all of your devices emit a probe. And there's a TCP layer that actually, identifies what kind of probe it is. And I forget the mode. But there's a specific mode of TCP where it sends out this probe. Okay, and that includes the MAC address as part of the format. So all devices with any kind of radio Wi-Fi, like a Wi-Fi adapter, will always send this every second. Every second. Okay? And on a iPhone, it sends it every second if you're using your device. If you're not using the device, it saves battery and runs it less often. On a growing level, like, after an hour, it will send it every 10 minutes. Every minute, sorry. Okay? If you haven't been using it for an hour, by about an hour, then the Wi-Fi pings or probes will be at about 1 minute apart. Okay? And then the moment you use your phone, it's going to go back to 1 second again. Okay? So this is not promiscuous mode. No, this has nothing to do with that. This is a separate thing completely. It's called Wi-Fi probes. Wi-Fi probes. Okay? Write it down. Wi-Fi probes. Because, just want to make sure you understand this. Wi-Fi probe announces your MAC address. That's what you need to think about. Wi-Fi probes announce your MAC address within range. Obviously, somebody in New York isn't going to get my MAC address if they're in New York because I'm in LA. You have to be within about 40 feet or less to see my MAC address. Around 40 feet or less, maybe less depending on the obstructions. Okay, you're not going to get a MAC address out of me, when you start getting into 200 feet or more. And you may need to use a special antenna to detect it, when it's in a larger range, and you can. But in general, you cannot. A MAC address is not visible without any special antenna beyond about 40 feet. Okay? So what is this used for? Well, think of this as the same as RFID. So a MAC address is the same as an RFID. It's the same as an active RFID. Active. It's actually actively sending out a signal. Okay? Active. So when you're doing carrying a phone around, it is actively sending out a probe announcing your presence, and you cannot stop it. Like I said, you cannot stop it. Don't tell me, I went to airplane mode. It's like, suck. There's no switch for this unless you have a Pine phone or a Librem 5. Switch off the Wi-Fi. Yes, there. You stop the probes. That's the only way. Switch it off. Okay? Or unplug it. 40 feet, about 12 meters. Okay. So just round it off to around 15 meters max. 15 meters max around. Okay. So I can track her up to about 40 miles square. 10 meters. So somewhere in there. That, again, it depends on the obstruction. It depends on if you have a special receiver. But a phone usually is not emitting a very strong signal. So even at 40 feet, it's already weak. Don't ask me what browser. There's already videos for that. Do laptops, any Wi-Fi? Goth Elf. Do you have a Wi-Fi on your laptop? Well, obviously, it's going to send out a probe because it's tied to the Wi-Fi. Okay, so do you understand that? And I'm only guesstimating the 40 feet. It could be 45, it could be 30. It depends on, open space, not open space, and so on. So, it depends. It also depends on, the frequency. Depends if somebody's running a microwave. There could be some interference and so on. In any case, the point is that your device is sending out in multiple channels a probe with your MAC address on it. And why is it like an RFID? Because it's like without you doing anything, it's sending out a unique identifier, just like you got chipped. So instead of putting the chip in your neck, like in the movies, they chip you on the neck or your hand or somewhere, you're holding the zacking chip. It's in your hands. So anyone that has some sort of detector, an RF detector, which I can write one, okay? I haven't had the time to finish it, but I started it and never had time because I need to get a special Wi-Fi adapter. I'm trying to get one in 5 gigahertz, and I haven't found one. So mostly I'm finding those adapters in 2.4 gigahertz. I want one that does it in 2.4 and 5, and I don't have one that I can plug in easily to a Pine phone. So in any case, the idea of a MAC address being used to sense your presence is really what the issue is, because if I have an RFID-like device where I can see anyone walking around with advertising their unique identifier, well, obviously all I have to do is say, you walk in the door, I get your MAC address. You walk out the door, I get your MAC address. So if I'm going to do building security, this is no big deal to do for me. If you want me to do it for you, you can hire me. I'll program it for your building. Okay? So what do you need to do? So basically you can say, identify anyone who walks into the building, what their MAC address is, and then see if they walk out and do a timestamp. You don't even need to have them sign in. You track the MAC address. You can even have sensors in the building to track, what floor the person left, with that MAC address. Did they exit from whatever floor? Now you have all the information. You can actually track a person walking around by proximity to the MAC address detector. So a MAC address is a proximity detector. It can only detect within the range that the MAC address is transmitting. So usually, within a 40-foot range without any special antennas. Okay? So it's great for security doorways. If you want to track who goes in and out of buildings, you can do that. If at Walmart, they can track anyone's MAC address walking in and out. They could even track you by what aisle you're in. So those are all possible with a MAC address because you're emitting a unique identifier. Now, do they know who the MAC address belongs to? No. Uh-oh. Goodness, I'm running out of battery. Hold on, I forgot to plug in. I forgot this mistake I did before, and I'm doing it again here. Hold on, I did not plug in the computer. Almost oh goodness, almost lost the signal there. Yeah, almost lost the signal. Okay, so a MAC address is something that is used in selective places as a proximity tracker. Now, what is it? What are they going to use a MAC address for? They're going to use it for COVID contact tracing. Because obviously, if you can detect any MAC address near you, you can say, "Oh, I was near MAC address ABC," which is WeFuCan's MAC address, in which case both of our devices have a contact trace. Oh, we were near each other, we're within range. Now, for infection tracing, contact tracing, what they're using is a Bluetooth MAC address. Why Bluetooth? Because Bluetooth is shorter range. So you're going to be, if you're within Bluetooth tracking, you're within infection range. Since MAC addresses for Bluetooth probably doesn't exceed 10 feet. Thank you, David. Thank you so much. You approve of the Librem products. I haven't gotten one yet, Dave, but yes, I ordered. Been waiting it for a year now. My Librem 5. So yeah, especially I like their work on Fosh. Fosh will be my preferred platform when even on the Pine phone. I have a Pine phone already, but I still don't have my Librem 5. So you feed them the wrong MAC. Okay, so The issue now is when it comes to contact tracing, they're going to use Bluetooth. Now, here's the difference between Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Bluetooth does not emit a transmission every second in the past. Bluetooth usually goes to sleep. Bluetooth doesn't usually announce its MAC address unless you go into settings and say, find another Bluetooth device. Normally it doesn't, it just sits in the background to save battery. I think that now the OSs are going to change this. They're going to activate Bluetooth to always be on because they want to do this contact tracing. Another big negative for using Android and iOS devices. They're going to be it's probably in an update that you already received, where they're going to turn on the Bluetooth so it pings constantly. Okay, so now you're not going to be just pinged by Wi-Fi, you're going to be pinged by a Bluetooth probe. So not just a Wi-Fi probe, but a Bluetooth probe. So that is what you're worried about now. So can someone who know you in person by his MAC, who the person is by? So can someone know who the person by his MAC address? No. But if someone was near you and collected your MAC address, then that person will know you're around with their eyes closed because they'll say, oh, MAC address such and such is back. But they don't know who the MAC address is. They just know it's the same device. It's a device identifier. It doesn't identify who you are. It just says this MAC address is present. Okay? Now, I'm going to change that story now. Because one of the biggest evils in the world is Zuckbook. Okay? Now, Zuckbook says, well, we're gonna really spy on you in a big way. So we're gonna use this MAC address to spy on you. So Zuckbook uses MAC addresses in a different way. So this is the difference. When you're on a network, let's say you're on, let's say it's at your house and it's a party. Let's say it's a Christmas party. And you got your friends and family at your house. And one of them uses Facebook, the app. Now, apps have a different access because apps can have access to the MAC address. So the apps can do something called a device fingerprint. That's one of my device fingerprint video. So the app can then pull, the Facebook app can pull the MAC addresses on the network. So this is what Facebook actually does. It searches the network. It does this to doing a doing an announcement. I forget the command. Somebody can tell me the command. But you do a announcement of saying who is this MAC address, or announce all of your MAC addresses, and that then gets announced, and then Facebook will store all the MAC address announced. Okay. Somebody can tell me what is the command again for MAC address pinging. So some of you network experts, we can. What's the command? I'm having a mental block here. Can't remember. Okay, so in any case, why is this different for Facebook? You see, Facebook is so massive. Since most people are on Facebook, what they can do when you're on Facebook app is it can assign a MAC address to every Facebook user. Since anytime you log into Facebook, it actually will record your MAC address because it's an app. That's why I don't like using the app. Okay. ARP. It's called ARP. A-R-P. Address Resolution Protocol. ARP. Okay, so the Facebook app will do an ARP command, and that will announce all the MAC addresses. And they're going to store that and say, your account on Facebook is connected to all these MAC addresses. And they're using it for relationship mapping. So if you're in a birthday party, a Christmas party, and somebody's using Facebook, it will ping everyone else on the network and record all the MAC addresses and say, I've seen you. And your MAC address is known because we know your Facebook identity. And now we can say the following people are in the same area, even with location off. Okay, that's a very sneaky trick by Facebook. So only Facebook does this. Very, very dangerous app. It's extremely difficult. That's why I want to ban people with a Facebook app on my network. So the way I do that is I put them all on a VPN. So I have a VPN router, this. They come into my house and this is the only IP address they have. I mean, the only Wi-Fi they can connect to. They connect to it and they're VPN'd out and there's no MAC address. That's the only way to protect against Facebook, because Facebook is very dangerous. Okay, that's a very unique use of a MAC address, as you can see there. Okay, no other app does that. They actually tell you they do it. It's in their, EULA. So that's when I discovered they were doing it, because they said so. LinkedIn does it too. I mean, that's possible, but we got to read their EULA to see if they're doing it. You may want to research that and show me where it is in the EULA that LinkedIn is doing it as well. So anyway, that's the danger of MAC address, is for what is called a relationship map. It connects people who are together, just like contact tracing. So contact tracing, anything that has to do with proximity tracking, seeing who's next to each other, that's what MAC addresses are for. They don't tell you what your location is. You can derive that from other things, but they knew who were together. They can say at this exact moment in time, these people were together. Well, if one of them have a GPS on or has triangulation on, then, well, they know where everyone is. You can kind of do a match. Okay, so you understand now that the difference between a MAC address, which is used for proximity tracking. If you don't want your MAC address to be tracked, it's very simple. Put your phone in a Faraday bag or turn it off. When the phone is off, it doesn't do anything. Turn it off. I don't mean, I mean off, power off. I don't mean standby. I mean off. Okay, if you turn your phone off, then it won't emit any kind of MAC address. Okay, this is different from IMSI. That's, you are pinging another announcement of an identifier called IMSI. That's from your cell. So that's part of the SIM card. So for those with SIM cards, you take off the SIM card and you stop pinging, but you can't do it out on CDMA. So if you're on Sprint, you're zocked. Okay. My threat is that I'm afraid that some hacker might find my location through malware. No, that is not an issue with MAC address. No. Hackers, no. A MAC address is not a threat from hackers. A MAC address is a threat from the big companies. Facebook, Google. It is not a threat that you need to worry about for small players. It is useless data for small player. It's only useful to somebody as big as Facebook. So for the most part, if your enemy is not a Facebook level company or corporation or anybody big, then don't even concern yourself with a MAC address, because there's no means to collect large amounts of data. Only the big companies can collect data on a MAC address. Okay, I didn't talk about Wi-Fi scanning yet. That's a separate issue. Remember, I have not talked about Wi-Fi scanning. What's our time here? Okay, time is good. Hello, Daniel. Native app in GNOME do the same like GPG? Yeah, there is one. I didn't like it though. It didn't look that good. The GNOME one. It didn't look that good, so I preferred the KGPG one. What's up to you? I didn't think it. And then there's Seahorse. That's the other one. I think Seahorse is GNOME. Okay, so you understand now that a MAC address, don't come to me and say, can I be tracked by my location by MAC address? No. Because the only way to get a MAC address is they have to be at your location. A MAC address only tells them that they're near you. It doesn't tell you where you are. If they can track your MAC address, they're right next to you. It's too late. Okay? A MAC address could just confirm your. Let's say that I'm a police networking person, and I can have a tool that says, is the perp in the building? So I search for the MAC address, and I see, oh, the MAC address of this perp is behind the door. Then I know that the perp is behind the door. That's what it can be used for. I can't do that from elsewhere. You have to be next to the person. Okay, that's the only purpose for MAC address in this context, without talking about Wi-Fi scanning. I haven't talked about Wi-Fi scanning. Okay, Seahorse is installed by default, yes, but Seahorse doesn't have that notepad, so it's for key management only. You can make keys and so on, but you can't use it to decrypt, encrypt. You need another device. That's why KGPG is good because it has notepad. It's pretty easy to use. Or text editor, I guess they call it. On Cleopatra, it's called Notepad. Okay, so now we will now shift gears. vPro IME discussion can be at a later time. We can talk about that at a later time. That's another big one. Okay, we just started. We are going 3 hours with the stream. No. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about Wi-Fi scanning. Now, Wi-Fi scanning is a very unique use of a MAC address, and it's unique to Apple and Google. Okay. Now, why is the Wi-Fi scanning different? Because Wi-Fi scanning does not track the MAC address of your phone. It does not. Let me repeat that. Wi-Fi scanning of Apple and Google has nothing to do with your phone's MAC address. For one thing, Apple and Google already know your MAC address of your phone in Google. If you go to Android, you can see the MAC address listed in settings. They already know that. They don't need to know your MAC address. They already know it. Okay? So, MAC addresses are not the important thing that's being tracked by Apple and Google. Apple and Google are tracking the MAC address of the router, the MAC addresses of the routers near you. Again, not the device MAC address, the routers, the Wi-Fi routers, promiscuous mode. That is something completely different. That's used for location tracking. Wi-Fi scanning tracks router MAC addresses, which you cannot spoof. You cannot spoof it unless you are willing to spoof yours and your neighbor's Wi-Fi's every few seconds. It's not going to work. Because it's not just your Wi-Fi, it's every Wi-Fi around you. So in my area here, easily there's 100 Wi-Fis here. How am I going to tell, every one of these people and every house and every building to spoof their Wi-Fi MAC address? Not going to work. By the way, the Wi-Fi MAC address is used for storing your passwords on Wi-Fi, so you can't spoof that anyway. Then you stop the Wi-Fi's from working. So that is a no-go. You cannot spoof a Wi-Fi router MAC address. So that is not important. Now, what are the risks here? Well, Wi-Fi scanning, which is unique to Apple and Google only, they use this to find the location of every router in the world. So what they do is they say you're sitting in where you are, like where I'm now, and if I have a phone here, it searches for all the routers around me checks the signal strength, relative signal strength, and then sends that data to Google, which will then find me in the center of the triangulation of Wi-Fi routers. And then their intent there is to track the location of every router, which is used in Wi-Fi triangulation. Okay? So it's the collection of data for Wi-Fi routers to know the location of Wi-Fi routers, which will be used later in Wi-Fi triangulation. But that is not Wi-Fi triangulation itself. It will be used in Wi-Fi triangulation. Okay, Wi-Fi scanning, unfortunately, is able to also know your location at every moment, because if it knows the location of the Wi-Fi routers, it's already verified your location as well. Because it takes your GPS. If you don't happen to have a GPS, it can then measure the triangulation and verify the GPS. What it's used for is to crowdsource the location of the Wi-Fi routers. Okay? So it is built into the chip on iOS. So you can't, there's no software you can modify. It's actually built into the Qualcomm chip. On Google Android, it's a separate code, part of GApps, Google Apps. So Wi-Fi scanning is part of Google Apps. It's proprietary code that they load in with Google Apps. It's proprietary, so they don't share it in open source. Okay, so why is this very special? Thank you, Dave. Thank you. What about Wi-Fi 6? Any improvement in security? Wi-Fi 6 has some other issues, like other protocols for like AX for faster speed. The separate protocol that we're talking about also that is supposedly featured in there is WPA3, but WPA3 has not been perfect. So we'll see. WPA3 is supposed to be the saver to Wi-Fi, since all Wi-Fis can be hacked. So if Apple and Google can do Wi-Fi scanning, I suppose it is a simple thing for three-letter agencies. Yes. Okay, now, since Wi-Fi scanning happens all the time, it's basically every time it does a probe, so it sends out a probe every second, right? I already told you that. Well, when you do a probe, it responds back, and the response is promiscuous mode. It actually gets a list of the routers, and then it accumulates that and sends that to Apple and Google. So the probe is the going out. The Wi-Fi scanning is coming in. Okay, it's passive. It just receives, it's promiscuous mode on the Wi-Fi. It's passive, so it's always doing it. So if it comes in and then it collects the data, it will forward it to Apple and Google. Now, what's interesting is a de-Googled phone does not have Wi-Fi scanning. A Linux phone does not have Wi-Fi scanning. Hello, I'm in it. RBR. Mac, Mel Gibson's here. Locutus aboard. Iron Fist. So, a Linux phone, which is what I recommend, and a de-Google phone, both of these do not do Wi-Fi scanning. So they can't do contact tracing where they say, well, we know your location, so we know where you are anyway. We know who you've been near. So we can't do contact tracing on Linux and a de-Googled Android. So Wi-Fi scanning is the missing piece here. So this is why I recommend that you get a de-Googled phone, and I sell in my store. I sell a Moto G7 and a Moto G7 Play, and if you want Linux, you can use a Nexus 5. So all of these phones that I sell cannot be tracked by Wi-Fi scanning because it doesn't exist. It's not on there. some of you said, well, but you're using the Aurora store and it's doing Firebase and whatever, and you're going to tell me all these different things that are being tracked. And please, that's a separate topic. Which will be in the next section if we have time. The point is, Wi-Fi scanning does not exist on those phones, period. It does not. That's it. So if you want to escape Wi-Fi scanning, you really don't have a choice. You have to go with a Linux phone or the Google no gaps phone, no Google apps, the Google phone. That is the only way, and then you have no scanning. Or use a flip phone, or use a BlackBerry Bold 9900. Other than that, you have Wi-Fi scanning. So if you like your iPhone, you have Wi-Fi scanning. If you like your Google Android, you have your Wi-Fi scanning. If you like to get new phones all the time from Apple or Google, you have Wi-Fi scanning. So you're zucked. So don't ask me, how can I evade Wi-Fi scanning? You can't. You agreed to it. There you are. So the only way to evade Wi-Fi scanning is to go with a Google phone, which is usually not entirely new. Usually, like the phones I sell are from last year, so they're last year's model. So does that make sense now? So Wi-Fi scanning is something used for proximity tracking, and it's not even connected to your MAC address. It's connected to router MAC addresses. It has nothing to do with your MAC address. It has to do with the MAC addresses of routers. So it doesn't really concern you as far as MAC address on your device. It doesn't concern you. But Wi-Fi scanning tracks you 24/7. Okay? Okay, let me, I might have to get you a sale on the Google phone. Not sure if they looked at your site. Yes, they can look at my site for the Google phones. I think, I get a shipment every few days, and then they get wiped out. And I had like 6 G7s, and before I started the broadcast, I'm down to 3, and I just put them on the store today, and I'm down to 3. I still have I think 3 or 4 Moto G7 plays. Okay, what about MAC address spoofing? So MAC address spoofing is a defense that only makes sense if you're scared about proximity tracking by some big player like, again, Apple, Google, Facebook. So other than that, then, they're, unless you're big enough player to do it, then it's a proximity check. Now, here's the good news. Android 10, which is what I put on the Moto G7 Play, actually has MAC address spoofing, I believe, when you're not using it. So it's sending out the probes. It will spoof the MAC address. That's on Android 10. Now, iOS did that in iOS 8. It didn't work. They had problems with it, so they stopped it. And by iOS 9, they reverted back to the old way. So the normal way they use it is the MAC address is spoofed when not in use, and then they typically use the real MAC address when you're actually connecting. So at least so the probes are often false. Okay. Where to buy my phones? Go to brax.me, my app. You can download the app or go to the website and look for me, and it's on my profile. Look for me and then click on my profile and you'll see the store. It's on my profile. Anyone can have a store on Brax.me. So I'm one of the ones that have a store, Brax.me. Wi-Fi 6 is bad for 5G. No, that has nothing to do with anything. When someone sent me a pic on Telegram, if I press on it, can that be infected with malware? Normally, you're talking about no, not that easily. Normally, it's a two-step process. Okay, if I'm going to put malware in a picture, I have to use some other program to read the picture and extract the malware from it. So it's two steps. So no, the answer is not directly. But if I'm smart and I want to attack you, I'm going to pass you malware that doesn't do anything. But the second step may be to read something else that you've downloaded earlier, like a picture, and extract the malware from that. That way it's harder to track. Okay? If somebody says, well, how did that get into the network? Because, that malware did not exist on the downloaded file. So typically, if I were a hacker, and I am a hacker, so I'll tell you how I would do it. I would trick you into two processes. I'll trick you into clicking on something on a website, which will download an executable, but not really do anything. Okay? Then I'll trick you again to download a picture, and then in combination, then I'll read the data from the picture and execute the code in memory. Okay? This happens all the time. Like, you can hide in Windows, they call it DLL. You can hide the small DLL in a picture and extract the DLL, save it to, extract it to memory, and then have it load in memory and execute there. That's the whole way that Metasploit works, a hacking tool. So that's how you do it in multiple parts. So the picture itself is not, but if you want to be, protecting from a hacker, the answer is really very simple. It's already on my video, how to set up your own computers, a new computer safely. It's very simple. Do not have admin rights on your device. Very simple. If you do not have admin rights to your device, nothing's going to get installed unless you specifically typed in your password to the admin account or root. Okay, so if you take the proper precautions, you don't need a Zucking antivirus. No name. Again, so many no names. I don't know which no name this is, but hello, no name. But does Wi-Fi 6 have health? No, I don't think so, King Sing. It's no different than Wi-Fi 5, Wi-Fi 4, Wi-Fi 3. It's the same thing. Correction, they all have risks, but it's no different. You already have the risk now. It's in my video on 5G. So yes, there are risks to all radio frequencies today, but it's not Wi-Fi 6. It's not like 5G. Wi-Fi 6 is the same as Wi-Fi 5. Same frequency. I got an AS number on my LAN and it wasn't that set up. An autonomous system. Wow, I don't understand what that means. Which company is doing which company is doing great in the field of implementing privacy? No one. If you call myself a company, this channel does something about privacy. Otherwise, no. Anyone expected impact? Did you expect impact? Wasn't that supposed to be yesterday? Was impact supposed to be yesterday? No, Wi-Fi 6 is not. No, Wi-Fi 6 is just includes a protocol for 802.11ax and WPA3. There's nothing to do with that. Yeah, don't confuse the issue. Wi-Fi 6 is nothing changed. It's not, aside from the security change in WPA3, which is, I don't know if it's fixed yet. Somebody has to go retest that. Okay, so are we clear now? So hopefully, what we're talking about now is you identifying some of the risk factors. Is you do not want to participate in one Wi-Fi scanning because that's going to be used for Apple and Google to find out your location at any one time. You do not want that. So get a de-Googled phone or get a Linux phone. You do not want that. I don't want that. I don't carry any iOS phone or Google phone. I carry a de-Googled phone, and I have it in my store, and they're very hot selling. I can't buy enough phones. It takes a long time to set this up, and it's very, very difficult time-wise to install a de-Googled phone, and you guys are buying it. I mean, it's very, very popular. So I have the Moto G7 Play, which is $269, and then I have the G7, which is $299. They are both GSM, and I'm going to tell you right now, it does not work on Verizon. Okay, let me just make this clear again, because some of you bought from me for Verizon, and if you bought your phone from me saying that you want to use it for Verizon, and I sold you a Verizon version, the problem is that it does not work. No, it will work on Verizon. That's not the question. The problem is that there is a bug on the AOSP 10 that prevents SMS from working with Verizon. So that's why I can't ship you a Verizon phone for Moto G7 and the G7 Play, and there's none for G7. So you can't spoof well, you can, but you go to jail. You can't spoof IMEI because if you do, they're gonna give you 20 years in jail. IMEI is 20 years in jail. Yeah, there are two different Motorola's I have. There is a G7 Play for GSM, and there's a G7 that's compatible with Verizon. Except there's a bug on SMS. So for that reason, I can't sell Verizon, because the bug. Yes, you can plug it to Verizon. Verizon will work, but you can't get SMS. So until that's fixed, then I'm zucked. Okay? So I don't like the way Verizon works. Verizon is very restrictive, with the device you bring in. And I don't like that kind of attitude because, you can't easily switch SIM cards with that kind of, you want a device with a SIM card, A. If it doesn't have a SIM card, you don't want that carrier. Because you're going to get more privacy when you can remove the SIM cards. So some Verizon phones don't have SIM cards. You don't want that. You don't want Sprint CDMA without SIM card. You don't want that either. You want a GSM phone. So the problem is if you're using a Verizon with the SIM card and then they put so many restrictions to the phones, it's just another way to kind of control you, and it's not good for privacy. For that reason, I don't really recommend Verizon. Can you talk about SS7 exploits? I did, Tismo. It's in the video, Who's Spying on Your Phone. It's already on there. Go watch that. Go watch my videos, man. I mean, I make these videos. Hopefully you watch them. Who's Spying on Your Phone? It's on the top of my channel. You're going to call tonight, Grayson. Okay. Are 5G affecting your ham-ready reception? They're not on the same frequency. You don't care about Verizon. Okay, so I personally use T-Mobile. I used to be on AT&T. I don't like the way AT&T cheated me, and I will say negative things about them for the rest of my life, even though I've been a long time user of AT&T, but but T-Mobile has been very good, and it's cheaper. And I also recommend Ting.com. So if you go to my go to BraxMe, you know, and get a referral code for Ting. Ting is nice for phones, like secondary phones, like phones used only for two-factor authentication, because it only costs like $10. If you're going to only use it for two-factor authentication, you're not going to spend more than $10 a month. So that's why I like Ting.com for that purpose. So I use it for like my secondary phones. So my primary line is on T-Mobile because it's unlimited, and then whenever I need to use 2FA, you know, throwaway SIM cards, then I use Ting, and I have like a stack of SIM cards, so I can keep changing my phone number. Why not use stealth SIM card? What makes it stealth? The carrier knows who you are, so I don't know what that means. I think that's the one you said. It's not actually SIM card. It's like a fake SIM card. There's no carrier. I haven't tried that, but that's very interesting. You know, fake carrier on the SIM card. I switched my gaming laptop from Windows to Ubuntu because I don't support. Yes, no SIM card is stealth. Yes, that's exactly right. Can you Google a Bell Canada phone, Samsung A70? You should Google it. What messaging app? Again, you can use Signal if you're talking to people you already know, like family and relatives, and people already know your phone number. Signal's fine. But for people that you do not know, I'd prefer BraxMe because there's no identity. Talking to somebody on BraxMe is great because, you know, nobody knows anything. Neither party has an identity on BraxMe. So you don't, you know, if two people met on BraxMe and said, okay, we're going to talk here, nobody knows who anyone is. Since there's no tracking, there's no IP address, you're not forced to put a phone number in. I don't really know anything about you on BraxMe. BraxMe is my open source app. So for that reason, BraxMe is great for a more anonymized identity, whereas, you know, Signal touts encrypted conversations, which is also, you can do also on BraxMe. There's end-to-end encryption. But the only difference is BraxMe uses symmetric encryption and Signal uses asymmetric encryption. Okay? And there's pluses and minuses to each side. Relating to quantum computers can break asymmetric but not symmetric. So that's the only difference. But neither here nor there. I don't really care if you use Signal versus Brax for encryption. They're both gonna do the job fine. The question is, what's the difference otherwise? The difference between BraxMe and a Signal is that BraxMe has no identity. It's completely pseudo-anonymous. So we don't really know who anyone is. You never have to put an identifier in like a phone number. Okay? Since there's no IP address tracking, there's no device fingerprint, there's nothing to really know who you are. Okay? Okay, what am I missing here? There's Lenny PR. Lenovo Chinese manufactured. The chips are Qualcomm. US phones use Qualcomm and Broadcom. Not Huawei. Could otherwise they don't work with the cell networks here. Could VPN provide a recognized unique device identifier? Could their app like NordVPN Salt? Apps can get access to a device fingerprint. Websites cannot. Apps can have access to a device fingerprint. Websites cannot. But if you have a de-Googled phone, then the device fingerprint doesn't matter because it doesn't exist. Okay, you always have to worry about a device fingerprint. That's in my device fingerprint video from the week before. Not this week, but the prior week. Watch that video. Device fingerprint is very important, and you do not get a device fingerprint on a de-Googled phone or Linux phone. You only get a device fingerprint on iOS and Android. I mean, there are so many reasons to go with a de-Googled phone. One is the Wi-Fi scanning, which they're going to use for contact tracing now to save lives. And then the other one is device fingerprint to positively identify you. So the combination of two, contact tracing location, they know your exact location from the Wi-Fi scanning, plus the device fingerprint leads to your exact identity and exact location. And they already know that Dave there was next to Mel Gibson at this party at that house in Beverly Hills, because Wi-Fi scanning gave the location, device fingerprint gave the exact identity. Well, guess what? A de-Googled phone has neither of that. There is no device fingerprint because it's spoofed. Yes, you can go see that it talks to Firebase, it talks to Google in some way. Fake. Fake identity, fake interaction. It's fake. It goes actually to something called micro G. It's fake. Wi-Fi scanning does not exist. Fake device fingerprint, no Wi-Fi scanning. Now you see why the Google phone is like selling like hotcakes. I mean, that's why I keep running out of these phones, because when you realize that there's actually no choice, if you don't want to be tracked, there's only one way to do it. Get away from zucking iOS and Android. It's simple. That's why people are buying these phones from me. Which is supporting this channel, by the way. It's going to let this channel survive. So this is, but I came up with this because I'm concerned, and it's turning out to be a good way to support this channel. But the reality is, I used it first. Device fingerprint on a laptop is not critical, because a laptop doesn't emit the same data as a phone. The operating system is completely different. Especially if you're using Linux, and it does nothing. So Windows does a limited amount of stuff, but it's fairly limited. Now Brax is tracking me. How does Brax track you? Brax me or me myself personally? Did Brax just use the F word? No, I don't use the zucking F word. I use the zucking zuck word, which I invented. Now, if you're saying, why do I keep saying zuck? It's because go to Urban Dictionary and look at what the zuck. And it references me in there, because I came up with it. What the zuck is something I came up with 5 years ago. So yeah, the Google phone solve all this. So MAC addresses, all that. You don't have to worry about that on a Google phone, because there's no zucking identity. Now, look at this. If somebody knows my MAC address and device fingerprint, see, those are the two combinations you really worry about. Device fingerprint and MAC address for proximity, and MAC addresses people around you and their device fingerprint. Then you know who they are. So you want to stop them from getting that kind of information. It's so easy to do it. You get a de-Google phone. So does a de-Google phone work just like a normal phone? No. Some apps don't work. So don't ask me, say, I don't like your de-Google phone because I can't run whatever app. So no, I mean, the whole point is that some apps that are so dependent on Google that they want to track you and know who you are, well, those apps aren't going to run. For example, any apps that require payment aren't gonna be able to get payment because there's no account. So depending on how restrictive the app is, the more restrictive they are, then the more reason not to ever download them. But I've tried most apps, and most things do work. I would say that 90% of the apps do work. 90% on a de-Google phone. Which Google Android phone brands are the worst for security? All of them. King Sing. I mean, come on. All. If it's Google Android, then obviously they're bad, period. Now, what about Huawei? And somebody said, okay, well, Huawei is doing, de-Googled Huawei. Well, I'm not sure I'm going to trust that. Okay? So in my case, I only use open source things. Okay? I only use open source. So if it's not open source, I'm not going to use it. So, there should be no cheating here. The problem with trusting, let's say you did Huawei. Well, the problem is in every Android phone, there's an area called OEM. And they can load anything in there, including any kind of spyware. So it is possible to get a Huawei phone and they could put some spyware in the OEM section. Okay? Now, if they do, they may be able to do some tracking, but again, no device identity. So we're still okay. But I'd rather not get a phone that might put something in the OEM section. Okay? That's why Linux phones are ultimately the most secure. Because there's no OEM area. Everything comes from the Linux kernel. Okay? If you have honest questions, come to this channel and ask. If you never log into a phone, it doesn't matter. Mick, did you just hear what I said about Wi-Fi scanning? So it's scanning you with Wi-Fi scanning. You never logged in and you think it will never find you? I'm not sure how you can use it without logging in, but okay. You're never tempted to log in? You cannot undo Wi-Fi scanning once you have a Google phone. There's other stuff in there for telemetry. You can't undo it. You can't say, oh, I'm going to de-Google this phone now. No, you can't. You got to install it from scratch. Tell Nahar, I never said it should be opinion on hardened Android phones like graphene. Graphene does the exact same thing I do. They just do it on a different phone model. So graphene is the one that uses a pixel. So if you use, Pixel 3a and all that, then you can use graphene. And if you want to use a Samsung Galaxy, you can use eFoundation. They're very similar to what I do. So I don't really care which one you use. They're all good. The only difference, of course, is those phones are more expensive. And I don't really want to deal with expensive phones necessarily. At least I don't want to buy them. If you want me to do it for you, you can buy the phone, send it to me, and I'll do it for you. That I can do. I just don't want to pay the, cost price of a Samsung Galaxy used at, $350, and then they sell it for $699. Well, just to that it's not a price range that I'm interested in selling, because $699 for a phone. My phones are $269 and $299. I mean, you can give one iPhone can give you four of the Moto G7 plays. 4 of them to one iPhone. You can give one to all of your family members, and they can all be de-Googled for the cost of one fucking iPhone. Am I safe with LibreOffice? Yes, I use LibreOffice. Yeah, I use that. I want a de-Google Samsung, Sony, or LG phones. Interested in the Sailfish OS, Sony Xperia phones. The problem with running Sailfish is that you have to pay for the full version. It's not free, so you got to buy it from somebody in the EU. You can install the free version on your Sony Xperia, but it's kind of a limited version. To get the full version, then you have to you have to buy it from the EU. Now the question is, when you install the version that supports Android apps, then you're not really doing anything different than a Google phone. So that's the question. So DG apps doesn't work properly. You do not want gaps. That's the most important thing, is you must not install gaps. Must not. Wi-Fi scanning is in gaps. Wi-Fi scanning is in gaps, so you don't want that. $6.99 way too. Yeah, Samsung Galaxies. You want fancy cameras and all this. And it's like, Zuck, if I want a fancy camera, then I'll just get, a separate camera that takes better pictures than an iPhone. Why do I need, like this DSLR I'm using here. I mean, that's pretty fancy. That's an expensive camera with multiple lens. Or this one is not cheap either. There's, it's like $1,000. So, yeah, I mean, if I want a nice camera, I'm gonna stick to that. And the phone is just for emergency picture taking for me, not serious camera shooting. I've installed Aurora Store on my Google phone. It allows me to spoof phone device model language. Will that spoof then apply for all apps in phone, or just install after? It does apply to everything on the phone. But you also have to install Micro G. I don't root the phones. I don't need to root the phones. You can root the phone. By default, I don't leave it rooted, and I don't need to root it for what I do. So rooting can be a security risk. So normally you want to leave that off. So I don't leave it rooted. I don't have any reason to root it for what I install. I know, Jason Acosta, the point is, if they're running the same thing, it's not different than the Google phone. It's, you're paying all that extra money for what? So not sure why I would want it compared to a Google phone, because Android 10 is a very nice interface. I like Android 10. It works nicely. If I want the Google by you, how much would it cost and how would it work? I put in on my store, if you want to bring your own device, as long as it's a device I approve in advance, I will de-Google your device and install it for you for $100. As long as it's something in my approved list, meaning I must have done it before. So, or I'm willing to learn on it. So I put it on my list there. $100, and I'll de-Google it for you. Bring your own phone. So if you don't want to buy a phone from me, buy your phone, send it to me. I'll de-Google it for you, send it back. As long as it's a Nexus 5, Nexus 7, OnePlus 1, OnePlus 6, and then Moto G7, Moto G7 Play. And I'll add to that list, maybe Pixel, and so on. So I have to kind of like learn it by model, because it's very time consuming to figure out. I don't need to run X-Privacy thing. It's already spoofing. It's already spoofed inside the compiled code. So it doesn't need X-Privacy on it. But it does the same thing. It's spoofed already internally on the G7, not the G7 Play. The G7 Play is not completely spoofed. So that's why some apps don't run. Wow, you used to not install any but what you sold. Yeah, I just added that today. So if you want to bring your own phone, if you already have a G7, if you already have a G7 Play, if you already have a Nexus 5, on and on and on, whatever you want, all you do is pay me $100 and then the shipping, which is $8 for me to send it back to you, and that's it. So if you want to buy a brand new phone, or a used phone, a cheap phone, a broken phone, it doesn't matter. I can do it. I don't know about a G6. I've never tried the G6. So the problem is I don't want to do models. I got to check the model first before you send it. If it's not on my list, I have to check the model. G6 may be okay, but I just want to verify it. G6 may be okay, but I looked at it recently and it looked like it's doable. Okay, so it looks like it's doable. But you know, let's talk to me during the week, because I got to find some time to go research it. So if I send you a Google Pixel 3, can you de-Google it? If I'm again, I have to pick models that that I verified ahead of time before I say yes or no. So those are not on my list currently. I've never done them before, so I can tell you only the ones I've done before. If I haven't done it before, I have to research it ahead of time. It takes a long time to research, so I don't want to have a big list. But if it's a popular phone, I might do it. I still have to research it, Bogus Johnson. Give me a chance to research it. It's on my store. I put it on the store, and I told you what the list is. It's Nexus 5, OnePlus 1, OnePlus 6, Moto G7 Play, Moto G7. The only thing that you don't know about is the OnePlus 6, because I've done those. So I can expand that list as I learn. Which video editor do I use? Adobe Premiere Pro. Can I send iPhone 11 Pro Max? If you send it to me, then I'm going to have to keep it. Actually, I don't want it. I don't want any iPhones. Don't send me any sucking iPhones. You know, there's no way to escape an iPhone. iPhone is like, crap. There's no way to install anything on it. You're going to be spied on with an iPhone. You're stuck. So if I were you, I'd sell the iPhone. Let's see, what else? How well can a Linux phone run APKs through? Not very well. No, they don't run well at all. They run very badly. So I do not recommend using Nbox or anything like that. Very slow. Some things don't work. Do you write a script to de-Google the phone step by step, Mel? No, there are many, many steps. And, when you've done it enough times, I can do it. It takes a long time. So I got to get it down where I can do it faster. Right now, it's still very time consuming. So I have to basically hire somebody to do it, just do it step by step, because it's very time consuming, and unfortunately time is money. And so I'm going to have to hire somebody to do it. New phones every year keep going, getting sneakered. What? Sneakier. Yes, they are getting sneakier. How about a Sony Xperia X7 II for de-Google or Sailfish? I don't know. Thank you, Jason. Thank you. I don't know. Sony Xperia should be okay. Some Sony Xperia, just because they're supported by Lineage OS. So first we have to see what the Lineage OS support is for the model. And Sony Xperia is one of the ones that have good support with, but not all. You see, that's a problem with Sony Xperia. Which Sony Xperia? There's like a zillion versions of them. That's where the issue is. So saying that it works for, XZ2 doesn't mean it works for all the other ones. So it's kind of a pain. You got to investigate one by one. That's why I do not want to experiment. If I don't have time to waste right now, I'm not going to take it. So don't tell me what phones you want me to do, because I have to have the time invested to learn a new phone, and it could take me as long as 2 weeks to learn a phone, and I don't have any incentive to do that if I'm going to only do one. But if somebody says, well, 50 people are going to come in and ask your services on this model, like a popular Samsung Galaxy, then of course that makes more sense to do. The more popular the phone, the more likely I can do it, like a Pixel. Snowden is a hero for me, Dave. Why would I hate Snowden? He was the one who told me that we're being spied on. Are old phones safer to use like Galaxy? No. It's nothing to do with age. The older phones are harder to install, actually. The newer ones are sleeker because of something called Treble Project. So you don't want anything older that doesn't support the Treble Project, because otherwise they're very hard to update. Can you be fingerprinted on a Tor? Yes, you can. Yeah. That's in my video already. Watch my video, browser fingerprint threat test, and I fingerprinted a Tor browser. Now, is that a long-term fingerprint? I don't know. You have to test it yourself. I only tested it in one session. I mean, one time, several sessions. Now, phones can listen to while watching TV. Don't give it the permissions for it. Snowden will tell you to ditch your cell phone. Correct. He shouldn't be using a phone. Wi-Fi makes phones able to track us. That's the issue. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Can't argue what some of you say. Okay, so now let's close it with the question of, since we're out of time now, the question of what is the difference in the approach between a Linux and a de-Googled phone? Because I'm getting this. Somebody posted on Brax that, hey, you're promoting the use of this app called Aurora Store, which allows you to install Google apps on a de-Googled phone, even though there's no Google Play on there. And I ran this program, and it tracked me, and it says it's doing a, connecting to Firebase, Google. Well, yes, of course. If you're using any app from the Google Play Store, even if it's from the spoofing store called Aurora, obviously the app will go to Firebase and to all the Google services. That's what it does. If you don't want to do that, then delete the app that connect to even a spoofed Google Play Store like Aurora. Then don't use anything from Aurora. Delete any app from Aurora. When I ship you the phones, I install BraxMe, and it doesn't even have to come from Aurora. I actually just pass the APK file over, and then I install Signal. So it's the same APK file from Aurora or from Signal, or from the one I upload, so it doesn't really matter. It's the same APK file. Now, somebody will say, well, I looked at BraxMe, and it connects to Firebase. Well, because notifications are on Firebase, Google Firebase. That's where notifications are. So if you use notifications, it has to talk to Google. So if you don't like that, then delete those sucking apps. It doesn't matter to me. If you don't want to, do that, then you don't want to do it. The thing is that Aurora is spoofed. There's no identity. That's one of the things that's important. There is no login to the Google phone. In fact, there's no place to log in. There's no Google ID. There's no place to put in a Google ID. The phone is unidentified. There's no device fingerprint because Android 10 limits the device fingerprint anyway. If you have the Android 10 version, the Google Play, Moto G7 Play. And then the other thing is that the identity is spoofed on the Aurora store. It even can spoof the device. So if your device is a Moto G7 Play, you can say it's a Pixel. Then it'll tell Google this is a Pixel. Then when your device looks for Firebase, it doesn't actually go directly to Google. It does not. This is something that many of you don't understand. It does not go to Google. It goes to Micro G. Micro G then sends it to Google. If it needs to. Like the location's actually spoofed. It doesn't send to Google at all. Okay, Micro G is a fake Google. So when I install Micro G on the device, it's actually like a micro Google. It's not really Google. So your app thinks it's connecting to Google, but it's not. So it's actually not connecting to Firebase. It's connecting to Micro G. That's why those de-Google phones are incredibly fantastic. I mean, it's like, having your cake and eating it too. You get, you get to use the apps and yet you fake them, and Google allows it to happen, and it's like, cool. If Google is letting me do this, then I'll let them do that. And some people say, why aren't you afraid of, YouTube? YouTube being, spying on us and all that. Goodness, spoof your identity. YouTube doesn't require you to have a real identity. Set up a, Gmail account that's not you, and move on with life. Have VPN and call it a day. No need to panic, The reason why is there's no way to stop on the internet, stop your data from going anywhere. But when you do disinformation, the data is useless. What is the point of sending an IP address to YouTube if you are on a VPN? Many people have the same IP address, so they don't actually know what's going on. They don't have a location. They don't, a location by IP address. And they don't know who you are precisely because they've seen many people with the same IP address. So what do they really know? That's the value of disinformation. So don't be afraid if they know something about you, as long as it's not real, then it's a good thing. If they know something and it's not real, then it's fantastic. So the Google phone, yes, they'll be tracking you all day on the Google phone if you install Google apps that are not from F-Droid. So if you're using Google apps of any sort from the Google Play Store, was what I mean, then yes, there will be some tracking just for notifications and things like that. So other than that, who cares? There's no information. Do you know that when you're using the Aurora store, they actually use the same zucking Google ID for every single person? So like, you're part of many thousands with the same Google ID. Thousands and thousands of people using Aurora store are using the same zucking Google ID. Well, what is that going to tell them? What's a device fingerprint? Nothing. Disinformation. Yeah, you can spoof that, Abhishek. That's a good point though, and I know that. I know that very well. So anyway, I use NewPipe to watch YouTube. NewPipe on my Google phone. So on the Google phone, you don't have YouTube. You have NewPipe. You can't install any kind of Google app. So you can't install Gmail. You can't install any Google app on a de-Googled phone. There's no Google. Won't let you. Is it possible to de-Google my existing Android phone by installing de-Googled OS like F-Droid? No, you have to install it from scratch. You have to install a new ROM from scratch. You got to start from the beginning. Okay? Can a feature phone with no internet be tracked or hacked? Not by the players I mentioned, not for contact tracing, not for Wi-Fi scanning, none of that. It can be tracked by the government, like any other phone. So other than that, no, it can't be tracked. It can't be tracked by the parties we are normally protecting against. Apple, Google, Facebook, stuff like that. Okay? But if you're talking about the government, yeah, if you have a cell phone, you can be tracked by government. Let's see, Rob. Okay, that's why I said just pay me $100 and I'll do it for you. Okay, here's why. It's not that I'm trying to withhold information for you. So I'll tell you the reality of it. By the way, if you like my broadcast, hit that like button. I mean, hundreds of you have been here, and nobody's been hitting the like button other than 72 of you. So I'm sure hundreds of you have been here already. There probably been 500, 600, 700 people have been here. So hit that like button. Anyway, let me just tell you what the problems are. Okay, if you screw up on a phone and install the wrong thing, you brick the phone. And when I say bricked, I mean it will be down to black screen. You can't turn it on, and you say, Zog, I got to throw away this phone. Okay, the phone will no longer work. Now, how do you recover from that? Well, that is in itself very, very difficult. There's so many steps to recovering a phone from scratch. You have to very specialized techniques depending on which phone it is, and then you have to restore it to stock. Now, here's the problem. There are many submodels to every phone. So, for example, I was doing let's pick one, Moto G7. There are many Moto G7s. There's a Moto G7 1962-1-4-6. 3 of them. Different files, different ROM, everything different. Different OEM area, different everything. If you install the wrong one on the model, you wipe the zucking phone. Here's another problem. If the phone doesn't have the right update version, if it's been updated to a higher level and you're installing a lower level update, it bricks. Now, if you understand what has to happen, I got to look at the phone, look at the model, look at what update has been on air before. I got to analyze the phone before I even touch it. Then I have to have the ability to restore it to the original by making sure I have all the files downloaded, gigabytes of files for the model, the original, so that I can restore it. But here's what happens. The moment I start on the phone, the warranty ends. Because once I unlock that, they will not honor the warranty. So you can see, restore it. So the phone is basically stuck. It's stuck on Lineage OS. There's no, with gaps. I can't remove gaps on it, so the phone is now useless. I can't install Ubuntu Touch. There's nothing I can do to the phone now because it has gaps on it. That's the kind of mistakes, and I have to pay for that by having damaged phones. So I have to learn to do all this. So that's why I'm saying, if you think it's so simple to do, then I'll just make a video and you can do it, but it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. It's complicated. That's why I have to just stick to a few models, because it's just so difficult to learn. And for goodness sakes, $100, compared to your time. Are you willing to spend 2 weeks of time, maybe 3 weeks, maybe forever because you can't figure it out? So that's what I try to do, is I try to make sure that the by the way, I just noticed I'm transmitting in not in 1080. I'm transmitting in 720k. I just noticed that. And you're still buffering? Okay, I'll 1080. 720. I another thing I got to set up. I got a new computer here, so I wasn't looking at it when you said it was buffering, but that's when I just realized by looking at it that I'm only transmitting at 720. So we lost a solid minute of you talking. Okay, so let me summarize what I said in the minute that I think you were talking about. So because there's so many things that can go wrong with the phone, it's just not possible to give you fixed instructions, because there's so many things to check, and every single phone is so difficult to learn because it depends on the manufacturer. This is why I've kind of settled in just a few phones that I want to do, and I don't want to really keep reinventing the wheel because it's so time consuming. I can only make a living if I can do it, in a time that is worth $100 of my time. If it's no longer, if it takes me a whole day to do it, which in some cases it did, even in something I know, and it takes a whole day, then the $100 isn't worth much. So, the $100 then it becomes for me is a waste of time. I could have done something else. So, if you knew what I was charging for programming, then you'll say, whoa. Okay, as a programmer, I was charging $1,000 an hour. Just so you know, to compare. And look what I'm doing on YouTube here. Okay? As a programmer, I was charging $1,000 an hour. And obviously, at that level, there's a reason I'm charging $1,000 an hour, because I can do it 10 times faster than anyone else. So in a big project, that makes a big difference. Maybe in a small project, it's not, it's not worth it. But in a big project, I end up being cheaper because I can do it 10 times faster. Okay? So if you make me do it on a phone that I already know, then you help the channel, and you support this channel. You allow me to make this content. I can't do it to all phones because I don't have the time to research them. So you press the like button. Thank you. So anyway, so that's I tried to give you instructions. I did a video on the 1+1 to install Ubuntu Touch, and then I put in the notes how to install it on Nexus 5. So if you looked at that, and you can learn to install it that way. But do you really want to spend that time, or is your time worth more? If your time is worth more, then let me do it, because I can do it in a fraction of the time you can. Okay, a fraction, because my computer's already set. I have all the files, everything's ready. So boom, 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 done. Would you be able to Google a Samsung? No, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to try phones that I've never done before at the moment. Signal looks okay here. Transmission of a signal is okay. NetGuard is not, some people are confused with NetGuard because, you use NetGuard when you're not using the phone. NetGuard is not, if you're on a VPN, it doesn't matter that NetGuard is if you're running NetGuard or not, because the VPN is already hiding your data anyway. Because a VPN cannot run with NetGuard. It's either NetGuard or the VPN. If you're not using the phone, you can put it on NetGuard because you're not expecting any traffic. I don't think the G7 plays. It is rootable. In fact, when I sell it, it has the super user app on it. It is rootable, but I don't root it. You can root it. It has a rooting app on there. What else? Try DB. There's a list of programs possible on your Google phones. Any program, I put in a list on the common ones. Yeah, if there's something you want me to try, a specific app to tell you if it works or not, just pass me a message. I'll install the app on my phone, see if it works or not. Practically everything. Let me just tell you what in general what works and what doesn't work. On a G7, most everything works, except for anything that requires payment. There's no store to accept payment. So the spoofing is much more robust on the G7. So because of the spoofing is more robust, it actually is able to trick just about every app that is running Google. Okay, so the G7 is better for running your favorite app. It's not necessarily the most secure, but it's better running your favorite app. The G7 Play is not as spoofed. There are things that it can't spoof. For this reason, some apps may not work. Some apps may not work. Most things work. The only ones that don't work are ones that require payments, and some where notifications don't work, and then the ones that require hidden Google services like Google Apps. None of those work. Can iOS be spoofed? No. I'm sure you want a G7. I'd want a G7. So yeah, so it was hard to find a supplier for the G7s. I think I found a supplier on Amazon. So it's hard to I've been hard pressed to find G7s, and I buy them new. So I buy the G7s new, and it's been hard to find new ones, and I found a source now. So I ordered 6. So if this 6 goes, I ordered another 6, and they arrive a week later. So, I can do order 6 to 10 phones, if I can, a week, if I can. Sometimes they're hard to find. I have to lay my head. Good night. Peace. Okay, Powell. Night, Rob. Is Hydrogen OS OnePlus Chinese ROM that doesn't have Google services safe for privacy? No, I don't know. I don't know. If it's from an untrusted source, the problem is there's, like I said, there's areas in there. They could say, oh yeah, this is open source, but if it's not really open source, there's places on an Android you can hide non-open source things called blobs. So I don't know. I wouldn't trust that. Trust the people who worry about privacy, who actually check all the stuff. Don't trust something else that you find. Like, Cyanogen Mod by itself, the original one before Lineage, that itself was not good. You have to modify it. Like, I don't load Lineage OS by itself. I got to load a modified one. Again, to make it clear, I do not load Lineage OS on a G7. I load a modified Lineage OS. I don't load the one that you find on lineageos.org. That's not what I use. Do cell phone carriers transmit any personal data or share with Google? Cell phone carriers do transmit personal data, yes. You already know the personal data. You have a SIM card. You paid for it with a credit card. Or you put your information on them when you signed up for the SIM card. Yes, the carrier knows all that. Does Google have access to that? Yes, some of it. Paid version of Sailfish uses Dalvik. Yes. Yes. In a sense, I don't know if Sailfish OS, when it's Googled, how safe it is. Aurora Store is fine. Aurora Store is fine, but with Google on there, yeah, that part I can't tell you because that's not part of the open source. Okay. I believe it says no Google services note. Is there any chance to do Google a Moto 6 Play? Possibly. G6 Play or G6? I'm not sure about a G6 Play. A G6 maybe. I gotta check it. King Sing, not where everything works. Like the Sony Xperia doesn't have everything that works. 1+1s are very hard to find. I haven't been able to find a 1+1 anymore. I bought a bunch of them and that's it. Can we unzuck the NBAs? Okay, so yeah, so I don't want to waste my time learning something new, so I'm only going to work on phones where I have experience, unless I have time to learn some newer phone or a very, very popular phone that might be useful to learn. Like I might be willing to learn to do a Pixel. And I believe a Pixel 3 XL or the 3 and above. 3. So I might consider a Pixel 3 or a Pixel, not a Pixel 2. I already checked that. What does the 1+1 do more secure? No, not 1+1 you can install Ubuntu Touch on a 1+1 just like a Nexus 5. So a 1+1 is like a Nexus 5. They're about the same in speed. The 1+1 is just a bit bigger. So obviously Ubuntu Touch is more, anything Ubuntu Touch is the most secure. It's not the most convenient, but it's the most secure. Okay? So there's no doubt they're the most secure. So if you want the most secure choice, you're going to need a Nexus 5 with Ubuntu Touch or a Pine phone running some sort of Linux. But the Pine phone is not yet ready as of today, but maybe let's check on it in a couple of weeks. Looking better every week. Okay, some new thing just happened. I've been watching it, waiting. The new change is they came up with something called Crust, which is a power management thing. And then Crust is able to now extend the battery life. So Crust is the new change for this week. Prior week, they got the phone and texting running. Intermittent for me. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And then the headphones didn't work yet. You can only use the speaker for voice, and then the camera still, that's not going to work for a while. So if you want something that where everything generally works, the Nexus 5. But the problem is, it's hard to find a Nexus 5. So Nexus 5s, go get one yourself. Bring your own device. I'll do your Nexus 5. Okay, so if you want to do that, bring your Nexus 5 to me. Buy it on your own, and I'll do it for you. I cannot get the Nexus 5s inexpensively anymore. I used to sell you the Nexus 5s for like, 173 or something, 160, and anywhere from 163 to 173. And I can't even do that anymore because, they're hard to find. You're going to have to bid on these phones for a little bit more. So it's going to, it's going to cost you a little bit more. So why Pine phone UB touch so slow? OS. It's the issue is the graphics acceleration. Graphics acceleration is not optimized yet. So that's why, it appears to be slow because the graphics acceleration, it's actually running no differently than a Nexus 5, but the graphic acceleration works perfectly on a Nexus 5. I don't want to use WhatsApp, but a FOSS web version I found on F-Droid. It should limit data collection except metadata between numbers, of course. If it's not an app, yes. But I don't know anything about that, so I can only speak about the app. Can we all ask people at Tony Mac to make a imagine a Hackintosh phone. I also tested it. I have phone with American SIM and other country chief SIM number for signal in the same phone, no metadata for my number. Okay, what's wrong with standard Lineage OS? It doesn't spoof. Lineage OS does not spoof. I have the Ubuntu Touch community port ordered as well. Hello, Carrie. Yeah, so yes, I have a Pine phone. I don't have I haven't ordered a new Pine phone, but I intend to sell the new Pine phone as an LTE VPN router. So when the time comes, I'm gonna make that, program that, and sell, a bunch of Pine phones as an LTE router. Or you can just buy the software for me. I'll just sell the software for it. It freezes constantly. It's because there's bugs. It's not ready yet, Zavi. That's why I'm not making a video yet. I want to make a video when it's ready. Which Linux distro do you use? Ubuntu. Someone could say, shouldn't you be using Manjaro? Yeah. I have it in VMs, but I'm more concerned about drivers. Compatibility is more my issue. So for compatibility reasons, Ubuntu was the one that I started with. And I don't really care what the distro is, to be honest. I'm very heavy Debian user. All my servers are Debian, so I don't want to go non-Debian. Do I really need to go Arch? Because I've spent so many years doing Debian servers, I just don't need to do anything else. So I don't really play around with distros. I'm not one of those guys that tries out every distro. I got other things to do. It's very hard to make apps and keep changing distros because which libraries loaded, which is not. It's kind of a pain. So just to keep it simple, I'm just, as an app developer, I'm using the generic Ubuntu. Yeah, so that's the reason. So I don't need to learn new, because it's not just what's. So I have Manjaro running, for example, in a VM. So if I can test it out, I go to VM and run it there. But for development work, which is what I do, then I don't really want to take that risk. Okay, I got other fish to fry, so I'm not. That's not my deal. My concentration is more on phones, so I'm working on phone OSs. So, for example, on the PinePhone, I like working on the Debian version, because then it's very familiar to me. I don't have to guess what library is on there. Okay, what else? Okay, so do other OS work better in PinePhone? Shall I try? Yeah, Debian Fosh. The one that I use the most, other than one to touch, is Debian Fosh. So they all have bugs, so but they're getting resolved soon, but not yet. When it's a little bit cleaner, I'll make a video, but it's not there yet. So I don't want to keep repeating making the video. So I expect everything to work except for the camera. The camera, if that doesn't work immediately, that can wait. But the basics have to work. Do other OS work better in PinePhone? Yeah, I answered that already. It's what the laptop came with. Dual card setup. Okay, so anyway, again, if you haven't hit the like button on the video, I would appreciate it if you do, because that's how Google decides to share the video. And again, I want to thank my Patreon supporters. I'm actually amazed at the number of people supporting this channel on Patreon is increasing. And I remember when I only had one patron supporter. So and now it's actually starting to be a noticeable number. Rather than getting $5 a month, it's getting noticeable now. So I appreciate it. Those people who are supporting me on, obviously I'm not going to say their names for privacy reasons, because they don't use their real name anyway. And I really, really appreciate, the support given by all of those people who contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are buying my products, again, I made these products for myself. If I sell something, it's because I'm using it. It's because I want to use it, and then I'm offering it to you as an option. I have an idea for another product, and I got to program it first. But this is my idea, because some of you suggested some things to me, like Nextcloud and so on. And I started to think about an idea here, and that is a cloud backup using your own cloud, your own device. So this is what I'm thinking about. These are early ideas here. What I'm thinking about is that you dump your files into a local drive. So let's say we put a flash drive on a Raspberry Pi. Let's say it's part of your router setup, Brax router. Maybe it's an attachment. Then you dump your files you back up your files into an area, a flash drive on the router device, and then whatever you pump into that folder will be encrypted by GPG, so that's end-to-end encrypted. So GPG encrypt any file you transfer will GPG encrypted with your certificate, with your public key. Only you have the private key, of course. And then if you want, then it can also send another backup of it to the cloud. So if you lose your device, then you have a backup in the cloud. Again, end-to-end encrypted by you, since it'll be GPG with your key. And then every time you take a file, then GPG will unlock it again with your own private key. That's my idea at the moment. So this is like a way to have zero knowledge storage. So the device is going to be doing the preparation for storage is actually located at your premises. So you actually then store it where you are, and then if you want to forward it to a forward server in the cloud, it's completely encrypted with your key, if you want to do it. Otherwise, you just keep it where it is. And it's nice, fancy little device here, and then you can store unlimited amounts of data in theory, especially if you back it up to the big cloud. So anyway, that's and I'm thinking of doing this with GPG. So it's better than like Nextcloud, because Nextcloud kind of allows you to store it on your own device just like that. But I'm thinking about integrating something else like GPG to it. So should be doable. So let's say you have a folder area, you dump all your files in there. It takes all that files, copies it encrypts it and copies to a different folder, and then uploads that to the cloud. No, I don't know what those products are. So I'm just thinking about what Brax Box. There you go. The Brax Cloud. Yeah, maybe we'll call it Brax Cloud, encrypted Brax Cloud, but end-to-end encrypted, zero knowledge, because you store the device for storage. You have it. And you can still store it in the real cloud or not. So this could be, and then it needs a flash drive, obviously. Pretty fancy device. And if you do it like this, then in theory you don't have to, because doing like online backup services, they take your files raw. So you're storing your files raw, unencrypted, like Dropbox. I mean, that's pretty stupid. You're dropping files in Dropbox? You zucking serious? Yeah, it can be incremental, yeah. Yeah, that's it can be incremental. That I can figure that kind of stuff out. I don't know how long it'll take me to do it. I just have to. If it's interesting enough, then I can work on it. You came from the sextortion scam, and now you're in here. Old experience about touch. There are some specific models of Sony Xperias that work, and they don't all completely work yet for Ubuntu Touch. He said Brax Cloud free? No, it can't. Brax Cloud can't be free. I mean, goodness, I pay for it. I mean, are you talking about the cloud storage? But you don't have to use the cloud storage. You can just keep it locally. But encrypted. And encrypted with your, encrypted, and you store your own private key. So then, only you can. So you basically control everything. Do files get bigger or smaller when GPG encrypted? They're probably going to be slightly larger. It depends, because, how are you encrypting it? Because there's 248, 4096. It depends on how you're encrypting it. Uh, that thing of crowd will have a space for like 1 petabyte of space for free. uh, uh, why don't you give me a petabyte of space for free? Instead of asking me to give it to you, why don't you give it to me? I mean, I'm providing you a service here. Oh my gosh, that sounds risky. What sounds risky? What sounds risky? Do files get bigger or smaller when GPG encrypted? Risky what? That you run out of space? Get more space. In theory, if you do it and store it in the cloud, then you'll never run out of space. Since cloud storage is unlimited. So, yeah. So in theory, you could say keep it locally. So that could be a consideration. I have to design this in my head here, but in theory, if you keep it locally, you need to have the space. If you and it has to have some processing area where it takes the files and then it moves it, checks the date, see if it's incrementally changed, and then store it. Kind of like GitHub, kind of the same logic there, like GitHub. I've done it before, so this is not something that's unusual to me. But I was just thinking about adding GPG to this. The cloud taking the files raw sounds risky. The cloud taking the files raw sounds risky. Oh yeah. If without, like Dropbox, yet people do it every day. How many of you use Dropbox, Google Cloud, and you're backing up all your files for Google to read? You don't think Google Cloud is giving you that stuff for free, right? You write all your memos, Google Docs, and they get to read your fucking memos. It's so stupid. Stupid. I have a question. Why the server south, no ads, it registered from New Delhi, India instead of California? I have no idea why that would be the case. Lenny? Obviously, VPN South is not in India. Why the server of VPN South, no ads, it registered from New Delhi instead of California? VPN South, no ads. VPN South is in Tampa, Florida. So, I mean, you should like the fact that it's not giving you the right location, but that's erroneous. So whatever you're getting that from is not correct. UB ports, King Singh, but it's on there. They're not 100% running. Does it take a lot of processing power to encrypt large files? You don't have to worry about that. The device CPU will handle that. The way I'm thinking about it, all you do is copy the files to the network over to some device, some Raspberry Pi-like device with a big drive, and then you store the files there over the network. So you copy it there, and then it does its thing. You don't have to think about it. It does it in batch. VPN West is obviously in LA. It doesn't matter where it says it is, Lenny PR. I know where the servers are. It's in Los Angeles, California. It doesn't matter if, whoever owns the IP address, if they have fake information, then it's good. But I don't get that. To me, it says California. I'm yawning. Okay, so anyway, yes, so very clearly, all my servers are in the U.S. Currently, my West pool is in Los Angeles. My South pool is in Tampa, Florida. My East pool moved. It used to be in New Jersey, and now it's in New York. Not New York City, but right outside. I think right outside New York City. I got to look at a map exactly, but it's yeah. I'm not going to tell you about any other VPN other than Bytes VPN, which is my VPN. Don't think about all those weird VPNs with weird names. Bytes VPN is mine, BYTZ, which is in the description of this video. Okay, many of you here are on Bytes VPN, so if you're on my channel, you can support this channel by spending no more than what you would pay for with another VPN with somebody that you trust in this channel, and it allows you to support this channel for the same price. You don't have to pay more than anybody else, and yet you're supporting this channel with somebody you trust here that you can, if there's an issue, you can come to my broadcast and say, you're screwed up. How is a local cloud different from an encrypted hard disk? We're talking about a secret. We're talking about the files being able to be transferred to the cloud in an encrypted form, into an encrypted form. So it's not just keeping it on a hard disk. For example, you can't move. Let's say you're running a Linux drive, and you're putting it on your local area network. Well, obviously, you're logged into the drive. You can see the files. That's not what I'm talking about. You cannot see the files unless you have the private key. And then the copy of the files can then be sent to the cloud, and you don't have to worry about safety because it was encrypted locally. Using, in this case, I'm thinking using GPG. So I encrypt it locally. This is the idea. So you put it, it's stored already encrypted. So anywhere you transfer it to any place else, it stays encrypted. So let's say you move it to Dropbox, you can. Because Dropbox can't read it. It's end-to-end encrypted. Okay, it allows you to actually use that. You want to use, Dropbox? Fine, use Dropbox. You want to use mine? You can use mine. It doesn't matter what you use. You can use it because it's already encrypted. And it can only be unencrypted by a GPG private key. Why not? Watch my video on GPG. So why not GPG? You have a problem with that? Anna Zakyu. It's possible to have a network the devices can talk to each other paying WebRTC, but has internet to each other. Set up a network, but has internet access. Is it possible to set up a network that devices cannot talk to each other, but has internet access? Confused with what you're trying to do there because there's so many options. Hello, Joe Smith. Do you know what GPG is, Zavi? I think GPG is one of the best options. Yeah, GPG is the open source version of PGP, which is proprietary. PGP is proprietary to, used to be Symantec. GPG is GNU Privacy Guard, which is the open source version of PGP. So, I mean, PGP is pretty old. Well, 1991, if you think that's old. But, I mean, it's the same as anything else, like HTTPS. I'm not trying to set up a network like this. It's my work network. Rob owns his own servers. Just curious to know your opinion. Okay, I want to know if it's possible. what is? Okay, hold on, let me back up. I don't see what your question is. Caller 154. Is it possible that devices cannot talk? I don't know what that means, though. I mean, what are you trying to accomplish? There are already networks that do that, and I'm not sure I understand what you just said. I think you need to clarify that, and maybe not now because it's kind of late. But there's networks already that are private networks where you even have hidden networks like I2P, so you can even have communicates to servers that are not visible on the internet using I2P, for example. Go try the I2P. Then you can set up two computers talking on I2P and they're not visible on the internet. And they're not on a VPN. And they're not identified. How many Linux phones do you have in stock? None. At the moment, I have 0 Linux phones. Not been able. I ordered one Nexus 5, 16 gigabyte is coming next week, hopefully Monday, and that will be the first Linux phone I'll have in a while. I've sold all my Linux phones from a week ago. What does Tor use the SOX why does Tor use the SOX 5 protocol? You have a lot to understand if you have to ask that question. You have a lot to understand if you ask that question. I mean, that is... Okay. HTTPS is browser traffic. SOX 5 is the entire network. You should know this. Your network is not just HTTPS. I mean, there's FTP, SMTP, POP3, IMAP, WebRTC, ping, time, NTP. I mean, there are thousands. There are 64,000 ports moving in and out of your computer. The only thing that is blocked by HTTPS is 443. One port. SOX 5 means all. SOX 5 means all ports. No, it is kind of basic. I mean, it's a basic thing. You got to understand how networks work. I mean, HTTPS. This is why do I say don't use a Tor browser, use a Tor router? Why do I say that? Because the Tor router is SOX 5. Okay? Unix is SOX 5. Tails is SOX 5. Cubes is SOX 5. A Tor browser is HTTPS. So it's limited only to, well, actually it's not even HTTPS. It's the Tor. It's just one. It's just the browser traffic. It uses, forget the port number right this moment, but whatever the port number is. So a Tor browser only sends all traffic from the browser. It doesn't interfere with the rest of your network where you can have a DNS leak. So Tor browser is not enough. You need to protect. For example, you're getting email. Email alone sends out, your IP address. Why did someone dislike this video? You can dislike. I don't really care. Maybe they didn't like what I said. I'm waiting for a new Linux phone from you. Already have the next 5 from you. Yeah, I can't even find one. So anyway, we'll see. We'll see where we are. So the only thing I can offer you right now are the Google phones and the occasional Nexus 5, which is extremely rare now. I'm lucky to find one every 2 weeks. Okay, so did you understand that, Mohammed? Or did you hit dislike? Okay, so yeah, SOX 5 means the entirety of your internet traffic versus one port, which is what a browser does. Browser only deals with port 80 or port 443 or whatever the Tor port is. I think you can configure it. A Tor browser uses a different port, and so I can't remember what the number is right now. Yeah, I can't remember. All these numbers jumble up in my brain after a while, and I got to look at it and see what number is. I can't do that anymore, Mr. H. That is clearly in the rules now. Even play guns are part of the rules now of YouTube to get demonetized. They've said it. Even play guns. So Zoc. Yes, I've heard of Zorin. Zorin makes it look like Windows. So I don't like to use Zorin because I don't need it to look like Windows. Okay, Mohammed. Hopefully I didn't mean to be mean. I just want to, it's kind of a very important point. So sorry, I just want to emphasize it. So SOX 5 is a very important thing you got to learn. SOX 5 means everything, which is what you want. VPNs are SOX 5. There should be. And most major VPNs are SOX 5. That's default. So you don't have to worry about that. Are you okay? I am perfect, Joe Smith. Okay, so it's very late now. What time is it? My gosh, we've been running for 3 hours here. Okay, so the chatting kind of extended, and yeah, way too long. So we're gonna end. I didn't even have an adult beverage. I was gonna have a single malt whiskey in here while I'm broadcasting, and I forgot. I forgot. So just making sure you're mentally good. The problem is that Tor never works where I live, but the browser works. I tried to use bridges, but that didn't work either. Ooh, Mohammed, are they blocking it? Oh my gosh. Mohammed, they may be blocking the port for... You need to use special bridges, not just an average bridge. You need some special ones. Some spoofing bridges. Not just an everyday bridge. There's an option for that. Yeah, that's... You're being... Wherever you are is not a good place. I'm sailing tomorrow. I'm going to go sailing tomorrow. I already spent... Guys, I did... For 3 days now, 3 days in a row, I went to the boat and fixed it up and cleaned the boat. I haven't cleaned it in a long time, actually years. So some of the insides were, full of crud. So I cleaned the boat and just changed oil and did all that and got it ready. And enough of this lockdown. I'm gonna go sailing. I can't get infected in the ocean. So okay, so if I have two routers, one is a modem from the ISP, another is a different one that I am connected to. Which one would I need to forward the port on? You need to forward the port on all of them. Why would you forward any ports? I don't do any kind of port forwarding, Joe Smith. That just gets hackers in there. I don't do any port forwarding whatsoever. It's 11:01 p.m. Okay, this is taking too long here. So I'm gonna say good night. And you guys are great. So I'm going to go sailing tomorrow. And then Sunday, I got to go build these phones for you. Okay, all these phone orders now, I got to sit down and go make them. I don't know. I don't know, King Singh. You know, with today's issues, it took me 2 weeks, I think. No, 17 days, I think, from when they shipped it to receive it. But they give me a tracking. I didn't ask that. I'm not stupid. Okay. Thank you, my friends. You guys are awesome. You guys just, you know, such an awesome audience supporting me as well, you know, with buying my products. It's just great. It's just, you know, we'll keep this sustained, and I can help you. When you make this channel grow, it just keeps me going here, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you in a video during the week. Bye-bye.